You ever have one of those mornings where you just do not want to go to school? You're running late, you didn't do your homework, and you just know your teacher's going to be waiting for you. Well, that's exactly where our story kicks off today, with a young boy whose pretty normal, carefree day is about to turn into a lesson he will never, ever forget. All right, let's get into it.
So, we're diving into The Last Lesson, a really powerful short story by the French author Alphonse Daudet. Now, this is all set against the very real, very harsh backdrop of the Franco-Prussian War. This was a conflict that ended with France losing two of its regions, Alsace and Lorraine, to Prussia. And the story uses a simple school classroom to talk about some huge ideas. Things like patriotism, what it means to lose your culture, and how war crashes into the lives of everyday people.
So let's jump in and meet our narrator. He's a young boy from Alsace, his name is Franz, and he's starting what he thinks is just another totally ordinary school day. And Franz's worries? Oh, they're super relatable. First off, he's late. And even worse, he's totally terrified of his teacher, Monsieur Hamel, because he hasn't studied his grammar lesson on partisans. Honestly, the thought of just skipping school, listening to the birds, maybe watching the Prussian soldiers drill, that sounds a whole lot better than facing the music.
But on his way, something stops him. There's a crowd gathered around the bulletin board in the town square. And you have to understand, for the last 2 years, this board has meant nothing but bad news. Lost battles, draft notices, new orders from the Prussians. So that crowd? It's this quiet, ominous sign that something is definitely up, and it's probably not good.
When Franz finally rushes into the school, the whole vibe is just off. Normally, the place is a chaotic mess of noise, Desks opening and closing, kids shouting lessons together, the teacher's ruler smacking the table. But not today. Today, it's dead silent, as quiet as a Sunday morning. And that strange, heavy quiet tells Franz and us that something is seriously wrong here. And inside that quiet classroom, the reason for this strange, heavy atmosphere is about to become painfully clear.
His teacher, M. Hamel, says these words, and just like that, Franz's entire world shifts. An order has come down from Berlin. This is it. This is the very last day that French, their native language, will be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Starting tomorrow, the only language allowed will be German.
And suddenly everything just clicks. All the strange little details make a kind of heartbreaking sense. M. Hamel is wearing his finest clothes, not for a special event, but to honor this final tragic occasion, and the back of the classroom, usually empty, is full of the old villagers. They've come to pay their respects, to show solidarity, and maybe to sit with their own regret for a language and a culture they had all, in one way or another, started to take for granted. And for Franz, that's the moment his apathy just shatters, and this wave of regret hits him for the very first time.
Now, to really understand just how heavy this moment is, we need to zoom out of the classroom for a minute and look at the bigger picture.
So here's the context. The story is a direct result of the Franco-Prussian War. After France loses in 1871, Prussia takes over these territories. And that decree from Berlin, the one banning the French language, that wasn't just some administrative policy. No, it was a weapon. It was a calculated move to erase a people's cultural identity and stamp Prussian authority on them.
This whole act is a perfect example of what's called linguistic chauvinism. It's a fancy term for a pretty ugly idea, the belief that your language is just plain better than others, and it's often used to suppress and dominate other cultures. By forcing the people of Alsace to speak German, the Prussians were trying to systematically take apart their sense of who they were.
So you see how language itself becomes the main battleground. For the Prussians, it's a tool of oppression, a way to force people to assimilate. But for the people of Alsace, their French language suddenly becomes their shield. It's a symbol of their identity, a quiet act of resistance, and the one thing they have left to hold on to. And this sudden, shocking loss forces the entire town to face a pretty difficult truth. You really don't know what you've got until it's gone.
M. Hamel doesn't just blame the Prussians. In this moment of brutal honesty, he looks out at everyone in the room and says this. He admits that they all played a part in this loss, through their own procrastination and their own neglect. And he breaks it all down, sparing no one. Not the parents, who often thought it was more important for their kids to be working on the farm than sitting in a classroom. Not the students, like Franz, who would rather be out playing, and not even himself. He admits that he'd sometimes send the kids out to water his flowers instead of teaching a lesson. It's this powerful realization that their culture wasn't just stolen from them. They'd let it slip away bit by bit through their own indifference. They all thought they had plenty of time, and now time was up. But in this final lesson, something shifts. That regret starts to transform into a quiet, powerful kind of resistance. That classroom becomes a little fortress of defiance.
This is it. This is Ma'am Hamill's most important message. He tells them that their language is the key to their own prison. What he means is, as long as a people hold on to their mother tongue, they hold on to the tool of their own liberation. Language connects you. It preserves your history. It keeps your identity alive. Even if you're physically conquered, your culture can keep your spirit free.
And M. Hamill shows them exactly what he means with this simple, beautiful gesture. He's brought brand new notebooks for this last lesson, and on them he's written 2 words in perfect script: France, Alsace. And as Franz looks around the room, these little notebooks become something more. He says they look like little flags, waving silently in the classroom, each one a tiny, defiant claim of who they really are.
Seeing all this, Franz looks out the window at the pigeons on the roof, and this thought pops into his head. It's so innocent, but also so incredibly deep. He wonders if the Prussians are going to try and force the pigeons to sing in German too. And that one little question just perfectly captures the absurdity of it all. You can conquer land, you can control people, but you can't conquer nature. You can't truly erase the soul of a culture.
Just then, the church clock strikes 12. The lesson is over. And at that exact same moment, the trumpets of the Prussian soldiers begin to sound outside. M. Hamel gets to his feet. He's pale, totally overwhelmed with emotion. He tries to speak, but he's choked up. The words just won't come out. So he turns to the blackboard for one final, silent act.
He takes a piece of chalk, and with all the strength he has left, he writes 3 words: Vive la France, long live France. And this is so much more than just a patriotic phrase. It's his last lesson. It's his first act of rebellion. It's a promise that even though his voice has been silenced in this classroom, the spirit of France will live on.
And that powerful moment leaves us with this big question. The last lesson isn't just a story about a war from over 150 years ago. It's a timeless look at what it really means to lose a piece of your identity. It forces us to think about the languages and cultures in our own world that are disappearing. And it's a stark reminder that they are so much more than just words. They are, in fact, the keys to who we are.